Welcome to Steeler Nation Live. It's your boy Sanders Tisdale.
James O.
Hey guys, we got a lot to talk about. A lot of things going on in Steeler Nation. Steelers win at home versus the Bengals. Huge upset in the making there with the Steelers. Could it be a resurgence of the Steelers? And also, Rudolph saves Christmas for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans and the Steeler Nation. Rudolph, I'd like to thank you. Shake your hand. You got every reason not to want to come back to Pittsburgh. You got every reason to say, you know what? But you know what?
Boy.
Hey, thank you. And also, who will start on Sunday versus the Seahawks? Huge question. A lot of you guys out there want to know. And also, James, playoffs. And hopes.
Playoffs.
A lot of people are wondering where the Steelers make the playoffs. We sometimes wonder that ourselves, but you know what? That's why they line them up every Sunday and they play. We'll find out next up on Steeler Nation Live.
Welcome back to Steeler Nation Live. I am James Owen.
I'm Sanders Tisdale.
It was an electric game there, and I almost said Heinz Field, Extra Stadium, against the visiting Bengals. I was there. There was a lot of electricity. I mean, you could feel it. If you didn't have goosebumps or whatever, you didn't have a soul. That game was very, very important to obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers and to all our fans. And just like Christmas comes along, who saves the day? Rudolph.
Yep.
But he didn't have a red nose. He had a nice, good arm.
Oh,
and
okay.
he made
a
lot. Yeah. I know it's a family show out there, folks. Don't worry. It's live. We can't edit this stuff. It's live. But you know what? Rudolph came to play. And as me and Sanders were talking about this, we always discuss the show before we start. You know, we got to get our stuff together. And we were wondering, why did Mason Rudolph take so long to actually get his stuff together? Was it because the holiday? Was it because we were at home? Was it because we were playing the Cincinnati Bengals? And we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. They're no slouch. We're going to go over their schedule for this past year, who they beat during the year and who they kind of lost to. And they have the same record as the Pittsburgh Steelers. But with that being said, you know what? Rudolph played like a professional quarterback. I mean, he's been with the Steelers for 6 years. He has nothing to prove. Go in there and play football, and that's what Mason Rudolph did. Did he have a couple bad throws? Yeah. He missed a couple open receivers. It happens.
We're used to that.
It happens. It happens. And I'm not going to, blame the weather for that because it did come down. It did rain heavily at one point during the game. But anyways, I mean, overall, statistically, the Pittsburgh Steelers ran the ball. And they made the plays that they had to make, Sanders.
Yeah, and that's the huge thing about it. Before I go on, I also want to share. Hey, I want to share my boy James out there before pregame in Pittsburgh Steelers land, checking out our vaunted Pittsburgh Steelers doing their thing here at Acrisure Stadium.
Beautiful stadium.
Everybody lining up to watch the Steelers play. Pictures of the Steelers playing out there on the field versus Cincinnati Bengals with a huge, great win for Pittsburgh. And as you can see, the
beautiful
great Pittsburgh skyline.
Oh,
you gotta love it. Gotta love it there in Pittsburgh. You guys gotta check it out. You gotta check out a game. But James, like you were saying, it was a huge, epic game. And the Steelers, they're facing a lot of battles. Should Thomas still go? Pickett, this the man, Mitch Trubisky. Let me go down the list. Who else? Mitch Trubisky. Should we put in me, for God's sakes? I mean, it was to that point that it was gotten so bad in Steeler land, and the Steelers kept it moving. I gotta respect that. Not a lot of people saying, you know what? So what? We won this game. It is what it is. But guys, you play every Sunday, whoever they put in front of you. The Steelers come up short on a lot of it. But as you know, a lot of it was a problem was no quarterback play, James. No quarterback play. And you know what? First, let's go over the stats from this game. We're here with the Steelers versus the Bengals. They won that game 34-11, James. You know what? The fact is total yards, Steelers over 368 yards of offense. No, I'm sorry, 397 yards of offense. Holy smoke.
Yeah, almost 400 yards again.
Yeah. Two penalties for 15. The Steelers were at one point one of the least penalized teams in the NFL. I know a lot of guys always say, you know what, Tomlin doesn't have control of the locker room. Tomlin doesn't have this, have that. I don't know if you guys caught a quick game of James. see if you did anyway. But the Steelers, not the Steelers, Ravens versus the wasn't. I'm sorry, I take that back. Kansas City versus the Raiders, and in that game, Kelsey got so pissed that he just took his helmet off, threw his helmet so far that he couldn't even. The next play was coming up, and Kelsey couldn't even get in the field for the next because he couldn't get his helmet. Shades of Thurman's Thomas.
Yeah.
He couldn't find his helmet, so they put in another guy, and shade and behold, this new guy who comes in, they do a trick 4th down play. He runs out, catches the pass for 1st down, and this guy's livid. And you know what? You know what happened to him? He got to come back on the field. Now, see, I told you, it's not just Tomlin. These superstars are who they are, James. That's another thing people want to talk about is like, how far do you let these guys go? How far do you either, cut a guy or just don't put up with it? I mean, the NFL is getting to a point to where, like you said, these guys get paid a lot of money. And sometimes it's like grown babies. I don't know what your thought is on that.
Well, here's the deal. We'll get back to the stats of the game, but you brought up an interesting topic, and it's a business. We all know it's a business. It's not like high school football. It's not like rec league football. These guys are paid big money to play and to make money for the team. If they act like idiots, the owners don't care. Why? Because they're paying for it. And subsequently, it's going to hurt the team. I mean, if you keep on doing that, like you said, he took himself out of the game. Why is he playing? Why is Pickens playing? Why is Deontay Johnson playing? And these other guys are busting their ass, like Jalen Warren, doing what they're supposed to do. And they're getting the same playing time as the guys who are out there acting like crybabies or whatever. Because if you're getting paid to play, you're going to play. It's simple as that. Yep. How you play or what happens between plays, if you act like a baby, crybaby, it's all about you. As long as you're getting paid, the owners make sure they go through the coaches. I don't care. This guy's playing. We're paying him top money. So that's my take on it. I could be wrong. Hey, folks, prove me wrong. 585-210-3917. That's the number to call the studio. You could either call us on the phone or you could send us a message through the board. We're reading it. We're looking for any Cincinnati Bengal fans out there. Call in. We're not gonna berate you. We'll talk some football. I mean, pre-game, we got a lot of stuff coming our way from Bengals fans and what they're gonna do and everything. And suddenly it just all went quiet. But getting back to the statistics, you said it. We had 397 yards, 2 penalties, 15 yards. The Bengals, only 3 penalties for 20 yards. And that came late in the game. Costly penalties for them, stopping drives, whatever. There should have been a lot more penalties called on a game, early in the game, pass interference. But, it is what it is. But the thing about it is, when you don't score points and you turn the ball over, you're not going to win many games. Case point last night with the Ravens and the 49ers. If you turn the ball over 5 times to an elite team like the Baltimore Ravens, chances are you're not going to win many ball games. And we'll talk about that later. Hopefully San Fran Steve will call in. We'll get his take on what happened last night in San Francisco to his 49ers.
I left my heart in San Francisco.
Well, they left a big loss there too.
Yeah, they did.
Rudolph coming to town. I mean, like we said earlier, he had nothing to prove. He went in there. He played football the way he was taught, the way he knew, and he got the job done.
Hey, why not? It's the
Yeah, you gotta love it, man. Christmas is over, but not here in Steeler Nation Live. We don't play like that. It's Christmas every day here in Steeler Nation Live, especially when you win. And we got the big other holiday coming up, New Year's Eve. We're going to talk about that. Hey, did you have a good Christmas? Let's talk about that for a second.
Christmas. I had a great Christmas. Like I said, I seen my Steelers win.
Yes.
I got to spend time with the family,
my
beautiful wife. Christmas was special to me. Rudolph made it special to me, and I won't forget this one to you, Rudolph. If you never throw another football, for God's sakes, I don't know if you ever will again.
But he will.
I thank you.
And let's get back to the stats. We always do here, Steeler Nation Live. We try to make it entertaining for you. If you like some Christmas songs, we'll play it in the background. Who knows? But Christmas is not really over. It's just put on pause for a little bit. So Rudolph, 17 for 27, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns. And what's that big statistic, Sanders? 0 interceptions, 0 turnovers. Najee Harris, 19 for 78, 1 touchdown. He ran the ball consistently. And Pickens, the star of the show, 4 catches, 195 yards, and 2 TDs. And what makes everything all come to attrition is just that if you do the route and you have the guy who could put the ball where it's supposed to be thrown, you're going to, big chance you're going to wind up scoring touchdowns. And he had a bunch of big plays, third and 15, that catch on the sideline. Amazing. This guy has got the talent. It's just he can't utilize his talent unless somebody gives him the ball. And Rudolph, I'm not saying he's the guy. Saturday, he was the guy.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the guy Sunday in Seattle? We don't know. But as long as he goes in there, he plays football, that's what's going to happen. Let's flip the ball over on the other side of the field. Browning, rookie quarterback for the Bengals, coming in for Joe Burrow, 28 for 42, 335 yards, 1 touchdown to T. Higgins. We'll talk about him in a second. 3 interceptions. Joe Mixon, we shut the defense. The defense shut the run down. He had 43 yards. This is Joe Mixon. This is their machine, their running machine. This guy can play some ball. He's one of the best out there. And T. Higgins, 5 catches, 140 yards, 1 touchdown. So the Bengals are no slouch. And there are a lot of people out there saying, oh, you beat the Bengals twice. Really? The Bengals, I mean, in our division, not so good. But you know what? I did a little research, and, I went over their schedule, and I looked at the teams, who they played and who they beat. So not to bore too many people, even though we have the same record as the Bengals. Let's see who the Bengals beat this year so far. Well, in week 3, they beat the Rams. Week 5, they beat the Cardinals, who we should have beat. Week 6, they beat the Seahawks, who we're facing. So there's a good sign that we might win this game. Maybe not. Week 8, the 49ers.
Yeah, that's huge.
They beat the 49ers. They beat the Bills after that. So they back-to-back weeks, week 8 and 9, they beat 49ers and the Bills, 2 top playoff contenders right there. Then they lost to the Titans. They lost to the Ravens. Then they lost to us in week 12. They beat the Jags, who beat us. They beat the Colts, who beat us. They beat the Vikings. And then they subsequently lost to us. And next week, they got to go to Kansas City. And you know what? The Bengals, they say they're in the hunt for the playoffs, but as the Steelers are 1 game ahead of them, because we hold the tiebreaker. We beat them twice, even though we have the same record. So the Bengals are, you can't even say they're in the hunt, but I guess statistically they're in the hunt because a bunch of other teams may lose. And they're going to play a Kansas City Chief team that's on a slide, 3-game losing streak. They just lost the other day. I mean, Sanders, can you tell me what your thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs and what's going on with them? Is it they didn't bundle their home and car insurance? I mean, should they change to Progressive, or is it Allstate? The mayhem.
Let me say this, guys.
I think it's the mayhem.
And also, I want to touch base. Kelton King said on the board, Rudolph actually pushed the ball downfield. Correct. He did all the things that we've been missing for months. And the thing about it is, he got the ball out. He found the open guy. He scanned the field. What else is it to say? That's all we wanted, just somebody to do that. We had nobody to do the basics, and that's what killed us for Pittsburgh in a lot of games, losing to the Browns, losing to other teams, over and over, 3 and outs, over and over. And to see something like this, it's like a breath of life in Steeler land. And a lot of guys out there say they don't want the Steelers to go anywhere. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm sorry, man. Every time they put on that uniform, I gotta root, man. I gotta root. If they could be, you got a lot of teams out there. You got Bills fans who out there, they've been losing for years. Whatever product they put out there, man, their stadium is still full, man. Still full.
Look at the Browns. They've had since the season started, they had 5 different starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And yes, they're 10-5. They're like trying to piece together what we've been doing. It's a mash unit. We were going over the roster before the game, and we're like, if you ever see the movie Major League, I know it's baseball, and they're going down the roster of the guys on the Cleveland Indians, and they're like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
Never heard of these guys before. And they're calling their names, their numbers. And we got Miles Jack, who retired and came back, and he almost had an interception. He dropped it. Why? I bet you it was like a hamburger or a pizza slice on the couch. I don't think he would have dropped it, but he's a top-notch linebacker. We're getting these corners, these safeties out of not even a practice squad. We're signing these guys to the practice squad, and the same day they're being pushed up to the 53-man roster because there's holes to fill, these injuries. And I know, folks, I can hear you now. Our team had injuries too, and we played. I get it, but it's not an excuse. It's a fact. Just like you were saying to me about your team having injuries and stuff. We get it, but this is, if you want, to try and put together why the Steelers aren't doing so good, you have to gel. You have to have some kind of identity. And we have different guys, like a revolving door, and you got players coming in and out that we don't even know who these guys are, where they came from. It's kind of hard for the players who play every day to know, what are you capable? What are your attributes? What can you do on this field? How do you perform? I mean, can I trust you? Can I, you know what I'm saying? It's just like any job. If you get coworkers all the time and you're trying to run a business, it's kind of hard to run that business with different people all the time. So with that being said, I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to notch together just, not a losing season, not just for Mike Tomlin or records or whatever that. It's just for your own personal, because nobody likes to lose, right, Sanders? I mean,
100%. But let me say this,
because play to win.
I did want to backtrack to when you asked me about Kansas City.
Kansas City, yes. Your thoughts.
And real quick, I want to touch base on it. I think the problem with Kansas City is the fact that Mahomes is, like one of my bosses always said that, you know what, pay your linemen on both sides of the ball and you have nothing to worry about. And I 100% agree with that. But see, in the NFL, you get into that stature to where we pay the quarterbacks big money. You pay you Tariq Hill, you pay these guys big money, but then you don't have anybody to throw them the ball. Or if you got Mahomes now, you're paying him all the money. You got nobody to protect him. Now he's got no wide receivers. The only wide receiver he's really got now is a tight end.
Well, he's got talented wide receivers,
but they got to catch the ball though.
Yeah, number one,
you got to stay in bounds.
Yeah, they got to try and do that too. But on a side note, talk about paying people. This is an interesting story I just seen yesterday, whatever. McCaffrey, the running back for the 49ers. It's a great story here. You know how some quarterbacks, they buy their linemen gifts or whatever for Christmas, Rolex watches, or takes them out to dinner because they did a great job. This kid just started golfing. He said he just started golfing. He bought the entire offense. We're talking coaches, linemen, receivers, sets of golf clubs. And the name mistakes me, but they're not cheap golf clubs. The whole offense. So this guy's dropping 50, 70 grand on some golf clubs so they can all go golfing together and, bond and stuff. That's what you kind of need. But that's what you need on your team to gel and get some camaraderie going and, some more than just words of brotherhood, that you're out there fighting for victory. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that has got to happen. And when you start throwing your helmet and you start pointing fingers, and in the locker room, out of locker room, sidelines, you're calling people out. Come on, man. That's not going to do it. You're professionals. You got to act like that. And we've been dealing with this for years with the killer bees. I mean, when you talk about, in the locker room, out of locker room, the wide receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we know how to pick them. We know how to draft them. However, we don't know how to coach them for whatever reason. And you can go all the way back to Antonio Brown, Latavius Bryant, Santonio Holmes. I could name Claypool. All these receivers, except for one receiver who's never had a problem, that's Hines Ward. And he's up for finally a finalist for the Hall of Fame. So if you look at how coaches trying to get their guys together and try to win games, it's really hard. And at this level, it's not kindergarten. It's not playground. I mean, we're all adults. You shouldn't have to do that. Tomlin shouldn't have to do that. I mean, your thoughts, Sanders?
Yes. I mean, and that's real. I mean, these guys, you're grown men. You're grown men. And nowadays that it's different now. You tell these guys, everybody says, I want somebody that's going to take control, that's going to do A, B, C, D, and blah, 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 blah. How did that work for the coach for the Chicago Bears? Used to be a linebacker.
Which one?
With the glasses.
Mike Ditka?
Not Mike Ditka.
Dick Butkus?
No, the black guy. Used to be a linebacker.
Oh, Singleton?
Singletary.
Singletary.
How did that work for Singletary?
Not good.
Got into it with his tight end. blah, 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 blah. Tight end was almost crying on the field, a grown man. And you know what? He was out of there by the end of the season. Come on, man. See, that's what I mean. And it's sad today's society, but that's how it is in the NFL. It's almost like you got to coddle these guys. You know, it's gonna be okay.
Gotta
the season's gonna finish off.
Give him a bottle.
You know, he burp them. but the thing about it is, man, it's sad to say it's like that, but it is. But I've been watching, guys. Believe me, we watching the board and everything is flying up there. And Kelton King, he's doing a lot of stuff. Kenny Pickett isn't a guy. He literally doesn't go through his progressions. He misses routine throws a lot. And the other people agree with him. Patrick Piano agreed with Kelton Pickett is not the starter. And the reason I just wanted to talk about that, because that's a good thing that we were going to bring up today. Pickett or Rudolph? Everybody's saying, we know Pickett was instrumental. He was a part of it, that got us to that 7-5 record where the Steelers were actually starting to do things, starting to move the ball or in certain games, but he did just enough. But in comes Mr. Trubisky, did nothing, and Rudolph actually did save the day, which is a freaking amazing, because he was the third string, who was a starter at one time, and he had every reason to sit there and begrudge the Steelers and be like, you know what? Let me just go out there, just show my wares for this one game, and that's it. But let me ask you this. A lot of people say Rudolph should be the starter. I even think he should be the starter. But James, do you think that's the correct way to do it right now?
I do. I think, actually, I know that Mason Rudolph should be the starter from here on out the rest of the season. The rest of the season might not be that very long. However, with that being said, Rudolph has he's got everything to be a starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coming out of Oklahoma State, we got him because he's accurate with the long ball. But here's the thing: poor leadership, poor coaching, and not giving this kid a chance. As soon as Roethlisberger retired, he should have been the first guy up in line. And I'm not just saying that because he had a great game this past Saturday, okay? We've all seen him play, and he was pushed to the back of the line for a reason, because you know what? The grass is always greener on the other side, okay? Had they've given Mason Rudolph his due, the chance that he works every day for, if they would have given him that at the beginning, who knows what the kind of quarterback this kid could have. If you have him under the leadership of Matt Canada and you have him, with the practice squad guys, this guy could be an elite quarterback. But right now, he's just out there playing football. I mean, he has nothing to prove. He's been in the league too long. He's getting up there in age. Most teams, would he be a starter in New York? I don't even think he'd be a starter in New York. But give the guy his dues. Let him finish out the season. And we talked about this on many shows about Pickett. Pickett is a great quarterback, okay? Is he going to get the job done? No. And we talked about, had he not played for the University of Pitt, I really believe that he would never been on the radar of the Pittsburgh Steelers whatsoever. So how do we fix this problem? We put Rudolph in there. And you know what? Kenny Pickett really isn't healthy 100% for him to start anyways. When he got hurt early in the season, I do believe they rushed him too quickly to get him back in there. Trubisky, you know what? We don't like to talk bad about people, but when you don't produce, you get out there and it's just statistically, it shows that he is not the guy. He should be number 3, if anything, practice squad. Trubisky, I'm sorry. He did great with Chicago. We had great expectations for him to come here to Pittsburgh, and it fell through. So now we got Mason Rudolph. He shows what he can do. And if you have him play on a consistent basis, I really do believe he's going to play consistently good and keep Pickett where he is. And how I feel what the Pittsburgh Steelers should do next season, folks, we want to hear your opinion too. Call up or on the message board, 585-210-3917. The Pittsburgh Steelers next year have to draft a quarterback and they have to sign a free agent quarterback. So I'm telling you, listen to me now. Remember me next Tuesday. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to go after Kirk Cousins. Is he the greatest quarterback ever? No, but he's got the history. He's got the resume of a starting quarterback that can, I don't want to say raise young quarterbacks, but to learn them, to teach them, to groom them. And if you have a Kenny Pickett underneath a Kirk Cousins, and if you draft we could draft a quarterback in the 3rd round who can sit behind Kirk Cousins and watch him. And Kirk Cousins, with him at the helm, the Pittsburgh Steelers are always going to be in the game. And I'll tell you what, look at what happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers when the 2 games, I know it was against the Bengals. That's a coinky-dink, okay? When you had Pickett come in with a new offensive coordinator, he threw like a monster. We had over 400 yards total offense, okay? And then somehow the wheels fell off the car and we didn't go anywhere. Pickett gets hurt. Trubisky comes in. He hurts us even more. And then we got Mason Rudolph comes in, and he shows what he can do, okay? And that's what we need. That's what we need. If we have a quarterback, it doesn't have to be, like a Dak Prescott or a Tua. I mean, somebody who can get in there behind center and give us a chance to win from the beginning to the end. That's what we need, because it's proven. If you have a quarterback who can throw to our receivers, our talented top billion-dollar baby receivers, and they produce, that proves that we're just a quarterback away from being contenders every game.
Yeah, and like you said, you also got to look at the other aspect. The Steelers are a team that's actually on a somewhat rebuilding, but also on a team that's actually got feelings that's been going along this season. So, I mean, name off the list. We have a lot of Steeler fans out there, diehard, loving Steeler fans, up and down, left and right. Notice Steelers front, back, forth, up, inside out, whatever. Let's get the list of these players, Sanders. Yeah, I mean, we got linebacker. We already had a couple guys that already went down for the season, maybe 2 to 3. Going on Landon Roberts. He's usually our starter. He's not healthy.
He's hurt.
So now you're on your 4th to 5th linebacker out there, and guys they pulling off the practice squads, guys they pulling off
retirement.
Out of the Miles Jack out of retirement,
Kurt Warner stuff,
picking guys out of parking lots at Wegmans and Walmart and you name it,
Home Depot. I think
they're picking these guys up and say, "Come play for the Steelers. We'll get you in there." And they're somehow doing it. Yeah, did we blow a couple games? Of course, but that's what I mean when I'm talking about injuries. And like you alluded to earlier, the injury bug. Yeah, people are like, well, we got an injury. Yeah. Everybody's got injuries, but we had it all over the field. We don't even have our starting quarterback. We're playing now with a 3rd string quarterback, and it keeps going down the list. I mean, defense is decimated. No. Our top safety is out. He's gone. Let alone all the linebacking core. Let alone even some guys in the interior linemen. Cam Hayward, he just came back not too long ago. You got to look at all those things, and somehow the ship is there. I mean, it's there.
It's floating.
And I mean, is it the fact that the Steelers, if they make it in, can they do damage? Who knows? You get a team that anybody doesn't expect anything from, and somehow they become a juggernaut. Yeah. It happens. I don't know if the Steelers can do it, but it happens. They have the tools to do it, and all they needed was a quarterback that can just get the ball to an open guy. That's all. If he's open, just throw it to him. And right now, at this point, it seems like this is the guy who's going to do it. There are a lot of people out there who are doing a lot of heavy doubting. And James, you got some notes here that you got on Rudolph and some of the things that he's done already in a short span.
Yeah, I mean, Rudolph, first Steelers quarterback to pass for over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns in a single game since Roethlisberger did it back in 2021. And as far as the games go with not having a losing season, I think I touched base on this before. Last time we had a losing season was 2003. We were 6-10, but then I think the next year we bounced up. We were 12-4, 12-5, whatever. And we've been 500 or best since then. And we're tied with the New England Patriots from from 2001 to 2019. The Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers have never had a losing season, and that one shit the bed for the Patriots this year. Even talk about Belichick being his final year. He's going to retire at the end of the year. And for something like that to happen, I mean, yeah, you know how I feel about that. I mean, if you don't win a Super Bowl, it's a losing season. I don't know, you go 16-1, 17-1 now, or 18-0 or whatever, 17-0, and not win a Super Bowl. What's the point? But what another topic that we can't not talk about, Sanders, is the big elephant in the room, Mike Tomlin. I mean, depending on where you read or what you listen to, hire him. They want to trade him. And now we're talking contract extension for Mike Tomlin. I mean, is that a good thing to be talking about right now, Sanders? I mean, should they not be just entirely focused on finishing out the season and possibly make it to the playoffs? You got a lot of stuff coming in, outside noise. I mean, your views, my views, Sanders. I mean, there's no reason to get rid of him unless you find a better quarterback, a better coach that could come in for Mike Tomlin and do the things that he's done in the past. He's got a Super Bowl ring under his belt. So, I mean, there's many more to go if he gets the right people, the right coaches, and they revamp the system. He's a leader. If you give him the right clay to mold, he's going to mold it. And as far as trading him, that's ridiculous. Contract extension, not out of the woods, not that crazy right now, because like I said, if you look in the future, Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, he's not coming to the NFL. Nick Saban, he's been in the NFL. He's done that, did that. He's not coming back. And a couple of the college coaches that names have been thrown around, I mean, you want to put them in that, risk that for a prestigious organization like the Pittsburgh Steelers to take a run at some college coach who was rah-rah all day long with their team and never made it to a bowl game, but you're going to come up to Pittsburgh and try and fit in with this caliber, this historic, nostalgic team of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Unheard of. So contract extension is not that crazy at this point, but I think that needs to be discussed after the season.
Yeah, I agree, and they should hold it off to after the season. But like I said, one of the things I do appreciate is the fact that they're thinking about it. Now, I'll tell you, a lot of people, like I said, they beat up Tomlin. I get pissed at Tomlin from time to time, but like I said, I know there are times he didn't have much to work with, and to me, he got the most out of him. And the fact of, you look at it this way, the New York Jets. I don't know if you heard on TV during the game, the announcers were talking about how the New York Jets were almost getting ready to get rid of their coach because they thought that Tomlin was going to possibly be open at the end of the season. They were going to go for Tomlin. They were going to go for Tomlin. And when they found out that it was a birdie through the grapevine that said possibly that Tomlin is going to be a Steeler still, and he's going to probably retire a Steeler, they decided to possibly keep their head coach, the one for the New York Jets. That's how much a lot of teams on the outside that people look at them saying, wow, either these guys are complainers or either these guys don't realize or A, B, C, D. But then you look at the other flip side of the coin is the Baltimore Ravens, their head coach. He's been in a playoff multiple times. But you know what the difference was? He found a gem at quarterback. Or at least a guy that was going to keep them viable enough every year to make it to the playoffs. Steelers haven't done yet. And the only problem with that is because they had Ben Roethlisberger, who is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I beat him up from this time to that time, but I'll be honest with you, the guy's done some miraculous things for him, and I applaud everything he's done. But within that 4 to 5 year window of his career, he was steadily declining, health-wise, because he's this big guy that just takes hit after hit after hit, and they never call it. Punished them for years, and it was starting to show. And I think by the end of those seasons, those 4 or 5 seasons, Ben was like basically just gassed out. Yeah, and he carried. And you got an older guy like him trying to carry this team, doing everything he could. There are times when we were like 8-8. The defense was suffering, and he was sitting back there just taking hits, but still firing like a general he was. But the fact is that, those are another 4 or 5 years that we couldn't do it.
Well, let's talk about the Ravens for a second there. And he went from Lamar Jackson to Lamarkable Jackson. And when you have a coach like John Harbaugh, it's just, why are the Ravens doing so good? It's just they took what they had, and how can we work with this? What can we do to make this guy better? And we all know Lamar Jackson starting out in his first 5 years. I mean, he ran the ball. I mean, he was inaccurate, couldn't throw the ball downfield. But the Ravens organization said, look, he's got something inside him. What can we do to bring this out? And they worked with him. Now only is he like one of the best running quarterbacks in the NFL, but he's one of the most accurate. And so when you take a team and you take their players and you extract from them what's going to make this team better, as opposed to, nope, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to work with us. We're not going to work with you. Look who's on top of the AFC North. It's the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm not saying that Harbaugh is a better coach than Mike Tomlin. It's just that when you have a system in your organization and then you just beat that thing like a dead horse and hope that something will change with different players. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. This is the system. This is what we're going to do. And it's still not working. We talked about this last week on our last show. It's just that when the old style of Pittsburgh Steelers football cannot compete with the new NFL, you can't do it. What the Steelers were back in the day, ground and pound, control the ball and win games like that and hope your defense, creates turnovers and wins on that side of the ball. That worked back in the day, but right now that's not. And we talked about Matt Canada. Everybody lambasting, well, this is not a team to come back. And it's true. If you look at that, if you take that out of context, what everybody did, and you think about for a second, wow, what a jackass. He has no hope in his team. What he was basically essentially saying is that with the scheme and the offense and the playbook we have now, he's right. This is how we take the leads of football games, we control the game, and we win on defense. And if the other team takes a lead, it's going to be almost impossible because now what do? We're just running the ball, and now we're doing 5-yard routes, and we're not going to win games like that. And that's what he meant by saying that. But now we need to open that up. We need to take that playbook, throw it out. Somebody with some new and excitement plays, get in there and make this a new Pittsburgh Steelers offense. We're just going to have to ride it out like we have right now because you can't change it up at the end of the season. But you have off season and beginning of this year, this new 2024 season, to take everything that you thought was going to work out of the Pittsburgh Steelers, throw it out because it's garbage, and put in something, implement a plan that can keep up with the rest of the NFL, keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the Harbaughs, keeping up with, the other coaches.
Yeah. Hey guys, like I said too, we also reading the board as well. got a Brown fan on there, and hey, I gotta admit, the Browns look good. The Browns are doing it. The Browns got a quarterback that's, what can I say about Flacco? I thought Flacco was one of those spare parts that you get up from the, the pick and pull place. And obviously he's proven everybody different. The Cleveland Browns are out there making things. Flacco, huge day, and he's one of the instrumental parts of what's bringing the Cleveland Browns in the Steelers division, somewhat close to where they should be. And the thing about it is the Cleveland Browns were somewhat in a similar spot as the Steelers. They just needed somebody to be able to make the throws. And that's what they got.
So basically Flacco is just I throw the ball, go and throw. That's what he did with the Baltimore Ravens when he played for them. And it worked. Why? Because they had a great receiving core. I mean, Steve Smith, they had all those guys out there. And that's all Flacco did. He wasn't flamboyant. He just said, go, I throw. And that's what he's doing with the Cleveland Browns. They got Cooper. They got a whole bunch of a plethora of fine wide receivers. But if they can't get the ball, you can't catch, you can't score. And that's what the Cleveland Browns have been doing offensively since Joe Flacco came off the couch. I mean, he's throwing for over 1,300. He's played what? 5 games. He's played 5 games. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards, 10 TDs, 7 interceptions, and he's got a passing rate of 85%, which is great coming off the couch. Not the bench, but the couch to come back in and play some football.
Yeah.
And, he played for the Jets for a little while. That didn't work out. I mean, does it work out for anybody who plays for the Jets? But and right now, Cleveland's playing some good, solid football. But don't worry, folks. The wheels will fall off pretty soon because why? It's the Cleveland Browns. And you know what? Yeah, I did say that. And for all you Cleveland Brown fans out there, the truth hurts. You know what's going to happen. I feel bad for you. It's kind of painful to lead you on for this long. Hey, you're in the playoffs, right?
Yep.
Hey, you made it.
Hey, that's all I can say.
Good job. along
guys,
with 15 other teams.
I want to show you quickly how close we are sometimes on some games, and sometimes we're wrong, some are right. But this is a game. This is right before the Cincinnati Bengal game, and we were giving our predictions.
Pittsburgh starts off early with a field goal, and it just falls apart from there. 27-13 Bengals. Sorry, Steeler fans. But I hope I'm wrong.
Man, somebody's spiking this eggnog. Steelers, 27. I'm going on a limb. 27 points.
This better be a thick, big limb.
27-20. And the reason I say that is because Rudolph has got everything to play for today. This is basically his audition for another team or whatever it is, because he knows he'll be gone for the Steelers. So maybe this is the game he's going to show his wares. And all it is the Steelers, they got to get that ground game going. And last time they played, they got the ground game going against who? The Cincinnati Bengals. Well, not just the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the fact is that the Steelers started to do what every other team does against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They use the tight ends.
Well, here's the deal. I love.
Hey, like you said, guys, you guys still out there on the boards. Need to stick with Rudolph. That's actually a true statement. We need, for right now, he's the guy. He's the man. He's the guy that should be starting. I feel that, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen with Kenny Pickett. From what I've seen, James, and a lot of you guys out there, everybody's saying just Rudolph. But like I said, that could change at the drop of a hat. And let's be honest, he has a bad game next week. Next show we come on, everybody's like, get him out of there. Put Mitch in.
So before I forget to talk about conversate, being at the game, a lot of people watched the whole game, and it felt really weird that the Pittsburgh Steelers just made it 31-11. There's over 8 minutes left to go in the game. The Bengals have the football, and at zero time, did the Bengals show any kind of, hey, we can come back, we can win this. I don't know if they were defeated or what the problem was. They were walking around and running the ball. They weren't throwing the ball, they were running the ball. And then when Pittsburgh got the ball back to kick that, the ultimate dagger with the field goal, make it 34-11, at no time did the Cincinnati Bengals they had 3 timeouts when the game was over. 2 challenges, 3 timeouts. Now, come on. If you're losing a ball game and you have 3 timeouts left to go in a game, what does that say about your coaching? What does that say about your team? I mean, I'm glad they didn't, but look at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders scored 2 touchdowns within 7 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's the Chiefs. Look at the game against Cleveland not too long ago, a couple of years ago, where Ben was quarterback, and it was like, 40-0 in the first 5 minutes? I mean, we were fumbling the ball, throwing the ball all over the place. The Browns were kicking our ass, scoring defensive touchdowns and offensive touchdowns. And I don't understand and when you're playing your division rival, when you got over 8 minutes left to go in the game, and you're on the road, you gotta show some life. You got to do something, at least try and put some. And it wasn't like the Bengals were that. I mean, the score does not really depict the play the Bengals were playing the first half and the first 3 quarters. I mean, it was pretty good. You take out those 2 long, let's see, the 2 touchdowns and 1 3rd and 15 pass to Pickens on the sideline that was for 35-45 yards. You take those 3 plays out, the Bengals are in it. Now, they were not running the ball, but they were passing effectively against us because that's what they do. You throw to the tight ends. And getting about our tight ends, we just talked about this before the show. I mean, Freiermuth, there's nothing wrong with him. He's got hands. He runs routes, he blocks. Darnell Washington, one pass, 1 attempt to any tight end, and it was a catch the whole game. That's ridiculous. That is absurd. That is beyond. Somebody's got to tell me about that. Somebody's got to call me and say, hey, look, here's why we didn't throw to the tight ends, which is ridiculous, especially when the one game where Freiermuth had 120 yards. And since then, he hasn't had squat because nobody throws to him. I don't understand that.
I'm at a loss of that as well, that how other teams use the tight ends and we, for some reason, won't. I don't know. I can't get it. Hopefully, somehow we use it and see that as effective, which we did with Kenny Pickett in the game, and we just get away from it for some reason. But one thing I will say, the Ravens, they're looking strong, James. I want to point that out. Huge win over the 49ers, 33-19. What is your thoughts on it? Are the Ravens going to be the class coming out of the AFC? I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's just a playoff thing? Where they go get bounced in the second round, maybe?
Well, if you want to talk conspiracy theories, this is another one of my conspiracy theories. And we talked about this offline, online, different shows, that my prediction for the Super Bowl this year is going to be the Ravens and the 49ers. Man, how much money can they make with a rematch of the 49ers and the Ravens after the Ravens just go out there and destroy them in San Francisco on a nice night? I mean, granted, everybody has their bad games, but you know what? For Purdy to throw 4 interceptions, then they take him out and they put in Sam Darnold and he throws an interception. And, McCaffrey had a below average day. When I mean below average day, that's better than team's best average. He had like a little over 100 yards and a touchdown. I mean, when's the last time Najee had 100 yard? Once? I don't know. Can't remember. It's been that long ago. But McCaffrey is only 100 something yards and a touchdown. And it's just all the other stats, they're Brandon Ayuk. What did he do? He had 113 yards and 6 catches. McCaffrey 1 touchdown. And Purdy was 18 for 32 for 255 and 4 interceptions. That's an average Pickett day. That's an average. So we're not trying to knock the 49ers, but I'm just saying they're setting the stage here for a rematch in the Super Bowl. And if you look on the Ravens side of the ball, Zay Flowers had 9 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown. He threw. That was it. He was throwing the ball to everybody and anybody in a Ravens jersey. We have people never even heard of 30, 40 yards receiving. He had 45 yards rushing as well. If you look at the stats, you think it would be a lot closer than the score last night. But folks, don't count the 49ers out. Yeah, it was a fluke of a game. Yeah, they were due for, a bad game. Rub it off, but the 49ers are still going to make it to the Super Bowl. And I guarantee you, write this down, folks. It's going to be the 49ers and the Ravens in the Super Bowl. Write it down, Sanders. So,
49ers and Ravens.
But before we even get there, one game at a time, Mike Tomlin says, we don't look for the future. We look what's on hand, at hand. And at hand, we're going West Coast to Seattle to play the damn Seahawks. And let's get the injury report before that game. Pickett returned to practice. He's still limited, but had he needed to be quarterback, he would have been put in there. We all know Rudolph he got the nod. Minka Fitzpatrick is still day-to-day with that knee injury. Layden Roberts, he's probably done for the rest of the season with that pec injury. Elijah Riley, safety. He's like a 3rd or 4th string safety. He's hurt. Who going to get? Broderick Jones, our number 1 draft pick, our offensive tackle. He's day-to-day with an ankle injury. And, it's looking at not looking good for the Pittsburgh Steelers going in to Seattle, one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL, and trying to cover Lockett and Metcalf, just to name a few. And we're on MASH squad with our secondary. So getting back a little history with the Steelers and the Seahawks. Seahawks lead the series 10-9. If you want to count the Super Bowl XL, we're 10-10. The last game we played was against the Seahawks in Heinz Field. We won that game in overtime, 23-20. That was in 2021. Roethlisberger was still around for that. And a game we should have won in regulation. However, you don't play to win, you play not to lose. And this is what happens when teams come back and you kick a last no seconds on the clock field goal to tie, put it in overtime. But defense came up huge once again.
Yep.
We got the ball, and Boswell kicks the 32-yard field goal to win the game, and that was in Pittsburgh. So different scenario, different storyline. We have Geno Smith, who is a fantastic quarterback, great arm, very accurate when he has time. If the Pittsburgh Steelers can get to him and, create some havoc in the backfield, I'm not worried about the ground game at all. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have stepped it up defensively to stop the running. I mean, if you hold Joe Mixon to 43 yards, oh my God, that's including receiving yards as well. It's just they're stepping up, they're doing their thing. We're getting healthy on a D line somewhat. When you get Highsmith and you got TJ Watt not being held and you get to the quarterback, it's a bad day for them. But it's got to be on both sides of the ball, Sanders. So your thoughts on that game flying out west?
Well, it's going to be a huge game, and the reason I say that is the fact that the Steelers they got nothing to lose. I mean, it's like win or go home basically. And it's that early for the Steelers. We were in control of our own destiny. We let it slip through our fingers. Yeah, was injuries a part of it? Of course it was, but it's a part of football. And the thing about it is you keep moving forward. And just reading stuff on the board as well, so we're going to get to those as well. But the Steelers going out there to play the Seahawks, a savvy Seahawk team. I believe their record is the same as the Steelers. I'm not positive. But the thing about it is, and maybe they have a game ahead of us. I'm not positive. But the thing about it is, the Steelers should be able to somewhat keep the game close for them to do something. But it all depends on what Rudolph shows up. If it's a Rudolph that played in the Cincinnati game, we got a chance. If it's the Rudolph that played before against Detroit last year, where a winless Detroit team came into Pittsburgh and tied us at 10 or whatever it was to score in that game, and the Steelers, basically ended up with a tie in that game. Those are the things that cost you seasons, cost you games. But the fact is, I believe the Steelers right now. But the thing about it is, that kind of sways me with the score, my brother, because of the injuries. The injuries the Steelers are going through. But I'm going to go out on a limb again like I did last time.
Hope it's the same limb.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to say the Steelers might win this game because usually through the end of the season for the last couple of years, they end strong. So I'm going to say they have nothing to lose. Put all the starters in. Go to Safeway, Walmart, Pick and Pull, whatever you want to go to get these guys.
Home Depot
for the last couple games. Put them in, start them, get them ready, and let's go on ahead and get these last two wins. I say the Steelers win this game against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to go out on another limb. 28-17 Steelers. And I say another big day. Not from the quarterback, the run game. So I'm going to give it to Jaylen Warren, who's going to probably have over 100 yards, a big game, and it's going to be enough to propel the Steelers past them to have their daunted matchup with the Ravens. By then, I don't know if that game would even matter to the Ravens by that point anyway. So I say 28-17.
All right. You know what? I'm going on a limb. Almost the same limb you're on. And there's a lot of ifs. Okay, there's a lot of ifs backing this. My score, and I'll tell you why. My score, 27-24 Steelers. Steelers going to win on a field goal. And here's what's going to happen. The Seattle Seahawks defense are going to contain our wide receivers. That Pickens is not going to have a breakout career game. Deontay Johnson, I don't see him doing a lot either. So if you're in fantasy leagues, don't be misguided about Pickens' last game. I really don't think he's going to copy that, because now the Seahawks, they have a great secondary, great defense. So how are we going to beat a defense like that? Well, as you said, Sanders, we're going to start heavy on the ground, and we're going to implement our tight ends. I know, folks. I know, what is this guy smoking? I mean, what has he been drinking? But I really believe once you take, all you got to do is send those guys long. All right. You got a good running game. What does that do? That opens up the seams. It opens up the middle for our tight ends to be involved in the game. And another thing, Seattle likes to blitz a lot. So how do you counteract that blitz? You throw a lot of screens. Let them come in. Come on in. And you dump it off to, say, I don't know, Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, or how about this for something crazy? I know it's crazy. Throw to a tight end. Get those yards. Get those tight ends. Have a tight end hold at the line and just go 5-6 yards down in the middle and just stand there. I mean, the Patriots, this is what they lived for. This is what they did. This is what Tom Brady was so great because he'd throw it to Gronk and other tight ends and Edelman and all those guys. They do 5, 7, 8 yard routes and just hang in the middle. And you got a linebacker covering you. You break away and you're throwing the ball. I mean, it's not rocket science. Okay. And this is how the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game. And it's going to be, Seattle's going to tie it up late in the game, and Boston's going to kick that game-winning field goal. I say he's going to kick a 52-yard field goal in Seattle. The Boz. That's how it's going to happen. 27-24 Steelers.
27-24.
Mark it down. But that's, folks, that's if all that happens. And Rudolph is going to come into the game like he did against Cincy. Just play football and just be the leader that he is. And I really do believe Pittsburgh is going to win this. Now, if the Pittsburgh Steelers have any kind of hopes for the playoffs, obviously first bet, you have to win both your games. That's almost a true ticket into the afterlife of the playoffs. And, we're going to need some help, whatever. But to keep the Steelers, not Tomlin's record, to keep the Steelers record going of, 500 plus seasons, even if they lose to Seattle, and I'm going to tell you this now, Sanders, folks at home, think about this. The Ravens have nothing to play for at this point. Okay. They already won a division. Their first round in the AFC, nobody can touch them. I mean, the Dolphins are the closest behind them. And even if the Ravens lost their last 2 games, they still have the number 1 seed. So if you think about this going into the last game, I really, really, truly doubt that John Harbaugh will put in his starters to play us, a very physical team, the last game of the season. It's meaningless that we can have possibly a better opportunity to win that game and being over 500. That's just optimism from me. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know, folks.
Well, I agree with you to a certain extent because I know I know how a lot of these teams are. If they can find a way to keep their team, to keep Pittsburgh from getting in the playoffs, to being a thorn in their side, why not play a half? Like, why not put your starters in for a half? See if you can build some kind of somewhat just to put some points on the board, and then from there, and if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. But I can see that coming against this game versus the Steelers. It's going to be huge. They're playing in front of their home crowd, and the guys they had behind them, they have experience. I mean, the Ravens,
they're not slouches. I'm not saying that, but
and I hate that I'm already looking past the Seattle Seahawks, which is not a good thing to do. And the Steelers, I hope, like you said, one game at a time. One game at a time. If you do that one game at a time, the Steelers will get past Seattle, win that one, go on into to play the Ravens in Baltimore, and it should be a huge game. I mean, I don't know, you guys on the boards, let me know what you think the scores are in that game or whatever. I see Cincinnati Joe. I seen you on there. I don't know if you're still on. Like I said, a lot of things coming from different outlets, and I want to thank the guys writing on the board. Patrick Piano, who else was there? Kelton King, a lot of guys that were writing on the board as well on on Facebook, different outlets on Facebook. It's all over the place. You guys do a phenomenal job. James, you say 27-24 Steelers. Yep. I said 28-17 Steelers. Hopefully we come out with a win. So, guys, until then, another day in Steelers Nation Live. We thank you guys for letting us come into your living room, especially on this holiday season, James.
Yes. Happy New Year. If you're going to go out and drink, don't drive. If you drive, don't drink. We want you here next week for Steelers Nation Live. Live.
So, guys, we'll see you Tuesday next week with a win. Not this week.